here we go. It's your old pal EMAC coming to you with a little MLB strategy show. We got nothing but wall-to-wall baseball today. First pitch in the 2 o'clock hour. We got a 7-game featured slate at night. It's going to be fun. I've got Chris Pennell walking through this with me once again. Chris, no phantom games on the run sheet, but I may have a surprise in store for you still.
Yeah, I had to be on my toes last time, EMAC. It was our second show together, but it definitely took some years off my life, that's for sure.
Good times as always. Fortunately, I'm back on East Coast time. Didn't stay up very late last night. Only made it till 11, despite having a 90-minute nap from 4:30 to 6. The old guy naps on a Friday are always good. But yeah, we've got a whole day here of Saturday of baseball. We'll jump into this. Take a leisurely stroll through things, but make sure we get you guys all of the information that you need. So we would appreciate it if you are able to give us a like as well as subscribe. We're marching towards the next milestone here. Just crossed over 76,000 YouTube subscribers, which is absolutely mind-boggling. But that will always let you know if you subscribe and hit that notification bell whenever we are going live. There are three more shows after us today, so you'll have some fun watching that. We've got half a dozen videos on demand coming out, all sorts of goodness here covering for you guys. Free content today is the MLB player projections as well as the MMA fighter rankings. You will get the MMA live before lock at 3 o'clock today. That will be with Jason Floyd and Pete the Heat Rogers. And then 6 o'clock tonight, you will get the MLB live before lock. That is going to be with Terry McBride, who just fresh off winning $30,000 last night, and Gundacker. So we got a lot of fun here. Chris, any thoughts as we ease into a slate or multiple slates here, depending on the site? So there is, every game is on somebody's main slate today. So we're going to be covering all of them. Any initial thoughts?
No, I think it's a fun one today, no matter what slate you're looking at. I think both slates have good pitching options. We have Coors Field in the main tonight, so should be a fun one. Looking forward to breaking it all down.
All right, well, we're going to jump on in here. We are, of course, sponsored by PrizePicks. We'll talk about them throughout the show, but our first game here, we've got the Arizona Cardinals and the St. Louis Cardinals. Miles, EMAC, Miles the Monster.
EMAC, the Diamondbacks are the team from Arizona, not the Cardinals versus the Cardinals. You got your mind on the football streets.
Well, I started thinking because this weekend's Dover. This threw me off. We've got a NASCAR race at Dover. the Monster Mile. Yeah, this is a good time. But let's get back to baseball. Arizona Diamondbacks with Mr. Mikolas going against them. You've got Merrill Kelly on the other side going against the Redbirds here. Looks like some potential weather in this one, but we should be skirting away from anything serious. Got winds out to left in the 15 to 20 mile an hour range. Take it away here. Is there anything worthwhile with the pitchers in this?
No, this is kind of a weird game because while both pitchers aren't really that appealing for a DFS, I don't think the bats look that appealing either. Both these guys aren't really high strikeout guys. We'll start with Merrill Kelly here going against the Cardinals. He definitely has the tougher matchup as the Cardinals obviously have plenty of pop in their bats, but they don't really strike out too much. And Merrill Kelly, since last season, 180 inning sample size, we're talking about a 20% K rate, which is not bad. But for DFS, I'd like to beat that a little bit more. But the price is nice, is the one thing I will say, at only $7,000. 4X, who doesn't really walk too many guys, doesn't give up a ton of power, but the matchup versus the Cardinals is not really something I want to attack. As for Miles Mikolas, only like a 3.3 implied team total against him. I think he'll be fine from a run prevention standpoint, but since last season, we're talking about a guy with a sub 18% K rate. I think he can limit the damage, and I don't think it would be far-fetched to say that he could get a cheap win, but at $8,000, I think I'm going to chase a little bit more strikeout upside. So no real interest in both these pitchers.
Yeah, it's one of those rough ones. Picking against the Arizona offense is something that we're probably going to do a fair amount. They're just kind of there. There's nothing overly exciting with them. We do have some power here, of course, with the Redbirds. Arenado, O'Neill, Goldschmidt. I think Goldschmidt hit a home run last night. You've got Carlson and Bader down there as well. Who knows if the ageless wonder Yadier Molina is going to be behind the plate. Did you know that I've been playing fantasy baseball in some form or another since 1990. I believe there has been a Molina brother in the league as a catcher that entire time, because he had, of course, Benji, and I think maybe it was Mike Molina, or Mike Molina might have been his older brothers. But yeah, this is crazy because I think Yachty's like, 37, 38. So craziness there. Any particular hitter you want to focus on, or shall we continue moving through our many options on this early slate?
Yeah, I mean, the Diamondbacks offense is not really going to be too appealing for me. If I had to roster anybody, it'd be Dalton Varsho. I just like that. He's fine. I know no longer has the catcher eligibility, but leading off $3,800, he's always been fine versus righties. But as far as the Cardinals, Tyler O'Neill is usually a guy I get to a lot of just because of the massive power upside he has. But this is kind of an expensive lineup up top. It definitely gets a lot cheaper from 4 through 9, but the top half there does get a bit pricey, and it's not like the team total is really jumping off the page here. So maybe just a couple one-offs, but nothing too spectacular here for the Cardinals, in my opinion.
All right, and I did hit refresh. This is one of the only lineups we have for our early slate. No Arenado, but Corey Dickerson batting fourth. Potential pinch hit risk. He's had better days, but 3,400 there on DK does give you a little bit of utility, as does Harrison Bader at 3,500. I guess I can't hate on a catcher batting fifth. That would be Yachty, but I don't think he has, other than that resurgent year that came out of nowhere. I think that was like 3 seasons ago. He's sort of been around the block quite a bit. Impressive that he's still playing at this level, but not quite the exciting guy from years past. Our next game, we do have some pitching here, and this is where things start to get interesting. Jose Berrios is going to be taking on Houston. This one of course, is in Toronto, so no weather concerns there because they do have the dome. You have Luis Garcia on the other side going against Toronto. Garcia is someone I like to look at quite a bit, but that is usually against the weakened or injury-riddled teams of the last couple of years in the American League West. This is an AL East squad, and it is, of course, Toronto, who is missing, I think, only Biggio's the only main person that is out from their regular lineup. That has me a little bit away from Garcia. On the other side, Berrios, I have been convinced he's going to be was going to be off to a bad start this year. He has proven me wrong at pretty much every turn. I'm now over-biased. I want to play him. That means it's probably time for everybody to step off the wagon before it goes crashing into the wall. What would you like to do as a neutral observer here?
Yeah, so it's interesting because the pitching in this game is certainly solid, but at the same time, the offenses are also very, very good. You have the Astros, you have the Blue Jays. These are two of the top offenses in the MLB, but both these pitches are solid enough where I think you can make cases for them. If I had to roster a pitcher here, it'd probably be Jose Berrios just because he's below 7K over on DK. Luis Garcia, you're getting up to nearly $8,500. So it's a little bit tougher to get to. Plus, we know Toronto's got tons of power in that lineup. But I mean, Garcia's got a 26% K rate. Doesn't really allow too much power. XFIP below 4. If you're looking at Berrios, 25% K rate. Doesn't really walk too many guys at 3.7 XFIP. Berrios was solid in his last game, but he still was getting hit quite a bit. Kind of got a bit lucky. He did get blown up in his first start this year, but at $6,100, I still think you're getting a solid value. I know the matchup is absolutely terrible versus Houston, but I think his price point does make him viable to roster in some lineups. But I'm not sure I'd get there in like a cash game format today.
Yeah, most definitely not. But at 6,800 on DraftKings, now we don't need him to be an ace. We just need him to get be in the mix for 15 DKP, as Gundacker likes to say, and all will be forgiven if he can float in right around there. That would be something that we want to look forward to here. Is there anybody standing out for you from the Blue Jays here? Perhaps a Matt Chapman, Ramiel Tapia, etc., aside from the known names that are beasting their way to the top of the order here?
Yeah, I mean, you have the obvious guys, Springer, Bichette, Vlad. They're going to be in play just about every single day, no matter who the pitcher is. But a guy I get to quite a bit is Zach Collins because he's got catcher eligibility. He's got the lefty and righty matchup here. The price is going up, though. I believe he was around the 2K range a couple of weeks ago. He's now up to the mid 4K range, so it's not as appealing. But I do like that catcher eligibility for Collins hitting in the middle of the order and one of the best offenses in baseball. But you can make a case for Chapman, Tapia, all those guys in this lineup. So I do think the Blue Jays are fine. About a 4.5 applied team total, which is higher than the Houston Astros today.
All right, I see T. McBee, Terry McBride, fresh off his $30,000 victory last night, is in chat gracing us with our presence. That should bring us some good luck here. So hit that like button. That will bring you all good luck. And then if you guys want to get behind the paywall, you can get all of the Awesemo Plus tools for just $29.95 per week. This includes everything: NASCAR, golf, NHL playoffs, which are starting here next week. You've got MLB in full swing. You've got the NBA playoffs. You got all of the exciting stuff here going on. If there's DFS sports out there, we've got content for it. The famous Top Golfers tool, the Top Stacks tool for MLB. You've got everything here. So definitely give that some consideration. Or if you're just a seam head, but on a budget, you can use that express package to get in behind the paywall for $49.95 per week. That will give you the light version of the various MLB tools, which is good. But you also get access to the Awesemo Discord, which is where you can pick the brain of one Terry McBride and in the DFS 101 channel and find a few strategies that are likely to be viable going forward. All right, this game, fair amount of weather, precipitation risk for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim going into Chicago to take on the White Sox. Are you ready for a trivia question here, Chris?
We'll find out, I guess.
All right. Michael Kopech. See, I got to relate this to the White Sox. Willie Nelson and me. What do the three of us have in common? I'll let you ponder that as you take us into this game. We'll let chat come up with the answer. They should get it pretty quick here. But we've got Jose Suarez, Vince Velasquez. I don't really want to take a chance with the pitchers in this one, but I'm interested in the hitters if the game plays. Talk to us about the hitters.
Yeah, both these pitchers are not guys I would really want to roster. We know Vince Velasquez has a long history of giving up a lot of power. So the bats here look very, very good. I think I'm going to prefer the White Sox side here versus Suarez. I mean, a lot of these guys have a lot of pop versus left-handed pitching. Tim Anderson up top, Andrew Vaughn, Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, Luis Robert. It's a little expensive, yes, but if you're able to make it work, these guys do look pretty nice. As far as the Angels go, we know they have a really good lineup up top. They do strike out quite a bit, but with Velasquez, he gives up so much power. I think it's definitely worth it. You have Taylor Ward, who's been one of the best hitters on the planet. It seems like the past, just really the start of the season so far. He's all the way up to $5,400, which is crazy. But the way he's been playing, I think it's kind of deserved. Brandon Marsh, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, Anthony Rendon, Jared Walsh. Very solid lineup top to bottom. I think both offenses are obviously fine, but the weather can certainly be an issue today.
All right, we're going to go on to the next game. We're going to make this interesting. A couple people are close with their guesses, but what do Michael Kopech, Willie Nelson, and me all have in common? First person to get that correct in chat will get a 7-day pass to Awesemo 1 week. We'll let T. McBee hand that out when someone gets this correct. All right, the next one, good God, the Washington Nationals. I went to bed well before. Do we call it an offensive fireworks when there are like 4 extra base hits, but there are 14 runs scored in a game? It's the bizarre dichotomy there. Clearly they did not have the 4 home runs like the Yankees did, but the Nationals made us look sort of bad. Those of us that were going with their going against them with Alex Wood. I'm going back to the well. Logan Webb's going to be my top pitcher on this slate. Nationals have just a 3.1 implied run total here. Yoan Adon is going against the Giants. Adon he has strikeouts, allows a lot of hard contact, which in turn turns into some extra base hits. I don't mind him as an SP2. I'd stay far, far away from him on FanDuel. What are you looking at in this one? We have Brandon Belt now out with COVID, joining Mike Yastrzemski.
Yeah, obviously I'm right there with you with Logan Webb. He's very expensive over on DK, the most expensive pitcher on this early slate, but I think it's deserved. I mean, the Nationals, outside of a couple guys, you're not too scared of that offense. And 2.8 xFIP for Logan Webb, 25% K rate. Doesn't allow much power whatsoever, 61% ground ball rate, only 19% fly balls, doesn't allow hard contact, doesn't give up homers. There is no reason really not to like Logan Webb. I think there's some good win equity here. I know the Giants are going to be without some bats today, which does hurt their offense overall, but Adon's a guy that I don't mind getting to some of these Giants here. It's a 4.5 implied team total against them. And it's a small sample size, but like you said, allowing a lot of hard contact so far, about a 40% hard contact rate, close to 2 homers allowed per 9. Even then, a 22% K rate's not really going to scare me off too much, and it walks a lot of guys as well. So I think the Giants bats are somewhat interesting. Sucks that they're going to be without a couple guys, but Logan Webb is definitely a pitcher I'm going to get to.
Yeah, we should see some by default some promotions in some of the batting order here. Wilmer Flores all but assured to be in the top half. Thairo Estrada probably goes up a spot, and then the ageless Brandon Crawford will be batting cleanup most likely. So we've got that going for us, of course. Moving on to our next game, I wrote up Shane Bieber as Justin Bieber in the article today. Thank God I went back and double checked that. Something just didn't feel right. That was between the first and second coffee this morning, but Bieber will be vying for top honors with Logan Webb as the top pitcher of this slate. Cole Irvin in an interesting spot going against the Guardians. Irvin 7,300 on DraftKings. It's going to be reasonable temperatures here in Oakland. The only concern with the weather is, well, it's for the pitching. There's a 15 to 18 mile an hour breeze going out to right field. I still think these are going to be two pitchers on the SP2 sites that should be around 30% of our portfolios. What do you like from this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Guardians fan, so I'm always going to like Shane Bieber, but it's hard not to like him here. Below $9,000 over on DK, definitely pricier over on FanDuel. Got to make more decision there, but you can easily slide in Shane Bieber as a potential SP2 option on this slate, which is kind of crazy to say. We have a team total of 3 for Oakland. It's a pitcher-friendly park, 2.9 xFIP, 31.8% strikeout rate for Bieber. And obviously the Oakland lineup's not something you're going to be too scared of here. So all signs really point to Bieber having a ton of ownership, but it's for good reason. I just have a hard time seeing him not be one of the best pitchers on the slate. Looks like he's picking up a lot of ownership. I believe the highest owned pitcher for us over on Awesemo right now, and also with the second best chance to be the top 2 pitcher. So loving Shane Bieber today.
All right. Well, I learned something new today. Willie Nelson actually celebrates 2 birthdays. I did not know this. I'm looking it up right now. He was born on April 29th. However, it was very late at night. They did not get it registered in the county courthouse until the next day, April 30th. So it went out officially that his birthday was on the 30th. He celebrates both days.
Oh, so
Traffic's heavy.
It's my birthday today.
Happy birthday.
There we go.
Happy birthday,
There we
Emmett.
go.
Yeah, traffic's slow in Abbott, Texas. I'm from that area. You know, there's a whole 3 cars from probably where Willie was born to the hospital. So it makes sense why it took a little while.
There's always a challenge there. Always a challenge. Fun note. He had a tour bus. Well, he has many tour buses, but they always named the redheaded stranger. One of my neighbors where I was growing up bought one of the used ones. So he had that parked in his down the street from us with the big gigantic mural on the side. So there we go. Willie Nelson and me, sort of. I didn't realize he had 2 birthdays. I back in the day before the internet, I knew he had the same birthday as mine, but he has 2 now. So there we go. All right. Now that we've had that little bit of fun, we can get to the final game of the DraftKings early slate. FanDuel is going to be tweaking us a little bit. I believe they have the 6 o'clock games on theirs, but we've got Chris Archer going against Shane McClanahan. McClanahan, solid pitcher, has been flashing some upside here. Tough lineup going, or tough day going against the Twins, at least at the top of the lineup with Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, etc. A lot of strikeouts still in the Twins lineup. I mean, when you have Miguel Sano and Gary Sanchez in the same lineup, somebody's getting 5 strikeouts today. Is it going to be the pitcher or is it going to be one of those batters? I'm not sure, but that's in play for everybody here. On the other side, you have Chris Archer. Injuries kind of derailed his career. Obviously, he was talented, now not so much, or just the age and injuries that have essentially cost him. He's become eminently hittable here. How do you feel about McClanahan? I ended up bumping him back behind Bieber and Logan Webb, but he is clearly third. It's just that it gets tough with Tampa Bay because they're never afraid to pull their pitchers second time through the order, and that makes it risky for them to get complete the 5th inning if things aren't going their way, or even the 6th, and that takes them out of the running for a quality start, which is important on FanDuel. How do you feel about McClanahan?
Yeah, it's kind of a risk reward spot here because there's strikeouts in this lineup for sure. And there's also a lot of power up top with a guy like Byron Buxton. But I like McClanahan a lot here. If I'm playing cash games, I'm probably going to get to Bieber McClanahan personally, just because you can save a little bit of money from Logan Webb. That's not to take anything away from Webb here, but I am definitely pretty big on McClanahan. Looks like he's got the best odds to be the top pitcher over on our top pitchers tool right now, which I can certainly get behind right there with Shane Bieber, 20.5% K rate, 3x FIP, doesn't allow much power. Pitching at home, pitcher friendly park. I mean, I think McClanahan should be rock solid here. And I do like the slight discount we get off of Logan Webb, but I think that pretty similar upside.
All right. Before we get into these 6 o'clock games, which are a standalone slate on DK, FanDuel is starting with they have a very early slate with the first 2 games, and then their early slate, which has the larger contests, starts at 4 o'clock. It does encompass these 6 o'clock games here, but we do want to mention our sponsor, PrizePicks. They are a phenomenal place to play. They are constantly giving things back to their members. Yesterday, they had a members only $100 deposit match. You didn't even have to do anything. You just put $100 in. They gave you $100 in promo funds. Those funds come out of your account first. You're not a member? Great. Use that promo code Awesemo. You deposit up to $100. They'll match you up to $100. You put in 50, they give you 50. You put in 100, they give you 100. You put in 200, they still give you 100 because it's a $100 deposit limit. But you using the promo code Awesemo will also get you 30 free days of Awesemo Platinum, which is an excellent value. So make your $100 deposit, get $190 back in value almost immediately. We'll talk about their format here when we finish our next 2 games, but it is definitely a lot of fun. Seattle Mariners, Miami Marlins. This game, I'm a little sad is not on that DraftKings main slate because we have 2 teams here with under a 4 implied run total, closer to 3.5 for each of them. You have Robbie Ray, dare we say the roller coaster Robbie Ray. Pucker factor always 11 when you're rostering him. And if you're watching the game, sometimes it's best just to see how he did after he leaves the game. You will have Jesus Luzardo on the other side, who has been flashing a lot of talent there, lefty youngster, yet another pitcher that the Marlins are developing for another team to ultimately take back from them. What do you want to do here with hitters? Is there anybody you would consider or be scared of for either of these pitchers? We're going to flip the script a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, obviously both these pitchers present plenty of upside, especially Robbie Ray. So the bats aren't going to look super appealing here. I mean, both lefties on the mound, so the righties are going to be the most appealing spots here. So if you're looking at the Marlins side, a guy like Jesus Aguilar is pretty cheap, $2,400 over on FanDuel. Jorge Soler, Gary Cooper, Avisel Garcia, John Burt. Like, you have a complete entire righties lineup here, at least projected to, for the Miami Marlins. So they're fine, but again, at the same time, Robbie Ray could strike out 13 guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just put up 1 or 0 runs in this game. And the same for, I guess, the Seattle Mariners. I think they definitely have more upside. They're the more appealing team to me. Luzardo does have strikeout upside, but he can also give up some power. So guys like Ty France, who's been on fire so far this year, but very expensive, $4,200. They have Eugenio Suarez. So not really a game I've liked the bats too much. The pitching definitely looks great, though.
Right. I was trying to remember who. Oh, Jose Luzardo and the Starling Marte. That was the trade. Okay. I knew he was traded from Oakland. I just couldn't remember what the moving parts were on that one. This is kind of interesting. So throwing out the 2 game slates, sort of caveats here, a little bit of the MLB strategy portion of the MLB strategy show. When you're on these 2 game slates and you're playing on a 2 pitcher site, such as Yahoo or DraftKings, you're going to end up taking players against your pitchers. There's nothing wrong with that. And especially as baseball has evolved the last couple seasons, where starting pitchers generally don't go that deep into games outside of a handful of true aces. And I guess maybe a dozen aces regularly go 7-8 innings. Everybody else is at risk of coming out earlier. This does 2 things. One, it means about half the batters are not going to be half of the at bats for each batter are not going to be against the starter, and that limits the risk that you have of oh, I need a home run and it came off my pitcher. That was that good or bad? Well, if it was a solo shot, it was good. If the bases were had anybody on them, not as good, but still not horrible, because a lot of people still won't play pitchers and hitters against each other, even on 2-game slates. With just 4 teams in the player pool, there's no issues with that. Separately, with this one, there's an extreme setup here for Miami on DraftKings. Nobody in their projected lineup is more than $2,800. That is like free for everybody. So you're not even really leaving money on the table. If you take a Marlins stack, and I wouldn't really want Ray against a Marlins stack, you're going to leave a couple thousand on the table, even if you take the 2 pitchers in our next game, or Luzardo and Minaya, I guess I should say. So just be careful on lineup construction, especially if you're using optimizers. Don't worry about spending $49,000. Just kind of run it, see what happens. There are some slates where, like this, or the turbo slates or things of that nature on DraftKings, where you may have good lineups that only spend $45,000. They're incredibly unique from everybody else, and if you end up with the stats, you just rake in the pile of cash. It's kind of an interesting aspect here. I've gone back and forth in doing this, because I like to play all the slates on DraftKings. So I do usually 2 sets of crunches. One, I run an unencumbered one just to kind of see what's the points, where's it going to land, and what is it spending. Then I usually run one with a single stack, usually a 4-man stack. Let there be one-offs across the board, so it'll spend all the salary, and then I tell it to spend 49 or 48,000. And then separately, I'll look about where is that cutoff for the top 20 lineups for points. I will then set my point floor a little bit below that, but I'll let it run whatever it wants to with no salary caps. And this is how you end up getting $45,000 of salary and leaving a chunk on the table. And I promise you are getting unique lineups when you're doing that in these contests. So that is always a challenge on the smaller slates for basketball or NHL or whatever. It's like 2-game slate. This might as well be showdown, right? Baseball, not like that at all, because there are a lot of ways you can differentiate. All right. That was your little lesson from the old guy. San Diego at Pittsburgh here. This is, I was surprised that going against JT Brubaker, that the pod squad has just over a 4 implied run total. Even without Fernando Tatis, I thought we would see a little bit more from this offense. Manny Machado definitely been outstanding. Jay Cronenworth getting it done. Profart starts to slip a little bit. Trent Grisham been in a bit of a funk, and then this whole offense falls apart. What do you think about the Padres offense? Because in theory, looking at this slate, they should be the most talented group, forgetting that, yes, they have minusculely the better implied run total, but they still look to have the better lineup. But I'm not getting a lot of warm and fuzzies here. What the hell happened to the pod squad?
Yeah, it's interesting because at the beginning of the season, I was kind of picking on the Padres quite a bit with right-handed pitching, which we do have here with JT Brubaker. He's not a top shelf kind of pitcher, but I think he's decent enough to where he could kind of get by on this slate at very minimal ownership, because if you're playing the turbo slate, everyone's going to want to stack the Padres here because they have the highest implied team total. They have, I guess, the most talent. You have Trent Grisham, Jake Cronenworth. Machado's been just tearing the cover of the baseball so far to start the season. Profar, Hosmer, it's like you said, it gets a little bit ugly down low. You have Trace Thompson, at least projected to bat 8th right now. But man, you can gain a lot of leverage on this slate if you just don't have Padres, and if you don't have any Padres and you run out JT Brubaker, which he could give you 4 or 5 innings with a handful of strikeouts. And if anything happens to the Padres, if Sean Manaea gets blown up or anything, you can have a lot of leverage on this slate.
I thought Trace Thompson was out of the league. Now I have to go look this up. Do you know who his brother is?
Clay Thompson, right?
Clay Thompson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember.
That's kind of interesting. That why is it not giving? What did I do wrong? Anyway, I'll look that up. Because I had thought he was out of. Oh, I spelled his name wrong. There we go. I had thought he was out of the league for a little bit, so that was interesting. So we'll get to that in just a sec. All right. Anything else before we get, let's talk a little prize picks here. So if you want to dust off your strikeouts model there. I will set this up for us. So over on PrizePicks, you have player props is basically how it works. You can choose 2, 3, 4, or 5 questions or player props. You choose the under or over, and then you get paid out. The more questions you have on your card, the higher your payout upside can be. So, for example, we have a lot of, I see they have a nice little contest here. So for example, if you have a 2-player card, you can get 3 extra money if they both are right. If you have a 5-player card and you get it right, all 5 right, you get 10 extra money. If you do, but if you only get 4 right, you double your money. And if you get 3 right on a 5 question card, you still get 40% of your money back. So that's not a bad way to go when you consider that the sports books, you miss one of your parlay, you're done. Today, it looks like they are having a special contest here for their 5-pick flex, or it's called Flex Fest. That is going to be a tongue twister there. So if today, if you have a 5-pick flex and all 5 hit, they're changing it from a 10x payout to a 13x payout. They're taking their 4 from a 2x to a 2.5x, and if you get 3 right, you get half your money back instead of a donut. They're doing something similar with the 4 flex. They're going from 5 to 8x, and then their 3-pick flex, they're going from 2.25 to 3.5. So they're constantly doing fun little things here. On Tuesdays, they have what they call Taco Tuesdays. They post their taco, 2 different plays of the day that in their Discord, they let you vote on which player you want, and they just take whatever their line is and usually knock somewhere between 10 and 20% off. And then for a limited time, you can wager up to 20 or 25 dollars worth of that player in various cards. You want to put it all in one, that's fine. You want to spread it across a few, that's fine as well. But they're constantly doing fun little promos here, and it's a site that I really enjoy. They have a very nice interface here. You can download the app. It's very slick. And then the final nice thing I want to mention is here are all the sports that are available today, and you can easily do cross-sport cards: NBA, CSGO, MLB, MMA, soccer, PGA, League of Legends, NHL, USFL. They've got multiple other, we'll call them video games, contests: boxing, tennis, NASCAR, NFL futures, which is kind of fun. You can do futures bets on players for their statistical milestones. Of course, that's not going to pay out till they come to fruition, so you may not want to put those with another bet that's going to be if you want your money back immediately today in payout. But they have cricket, disc golf, all sorts of good stuff here. So let's look at some strikeout props here. For the early slate, we were less than thrilled about Merrill Kelly and Miles Mikolas. They're both at a 4 strikeout. That feels about right. What is the vaunted, do you have a nickname for your model?
I don't.
Okay, so chat, you got to come up by next week. We're gonna debut nicknames for the model here for Chris, because Gundacker has the bomb detector. Terry calls his the baseball model. All right, so that one's taken. So we have to come up with a nickname for your model. But how are you feeling about a pair of righties there with the 4.0 strikeout prop?
Oh, it's really close to what I have. I have Mikolas right at 4. I got Kelly at 4.5. You said Kelly's sitting at 4?
Both of them are at 4.
Both at 4. The one I would take the over on is probably Merrill Kelly there. Miles Mikolas, I mean, both guys don't have a ton of strikeout upside, but he's sitting at 18% since last season. Merrill Kelly has a little bit more upside with 20%. I would give it slightly to Kelly there.
All right. A couple more that we liked. You have you own Adon at 4 and Logan Webb at 5. I kind of like that Logan Webb at 5. I'm hoping you're at 5.5 or higher on yours.
Yeah, I'm right at 5.5. And I honestly think there's upside for a lot more there too. That might be a little bit conservative in my opinion. And I actually think Adon over 4 is not too bad either. Especially with a couple guys being out for the Giants.
All right. Chris's K machine is a possible name. The Bull Pen. Get it? Your last name? Pen.
I like it.
Oh, that one's pretty good, actually.
I like it.
There's the leader in the clubhouse, if you will, for that one. But one other thing I want to talk about PrizePicks here. The only rules, you can't use a player on a card more than once. You need a question from both sides of a game or from multiple games. So basically 2 teams. But if you couldn't pick, all Minnesota Timberwolves last night on the single game contest. Yes, that you can build out single game cards. You would have needed one of them to be from Memphis. And then if there is a tie, meaning like these strikeouts at 4, all that does, it just comes out of your card. It doesn't invalidate the card. It just bumps you down to whatever the next level payout would be. So if you have a question card and one of them ties, okay, that one kind of essentially gets invalidated. But you do get, if you have a 5 question card and one of them ties, it turns into a 4 question card, and then you go off of those payouts. So you don't lose, or it's not a push invalidating everything like it can be on the sports wagering sites. And then the other one is you can't play a player more than once per card. Just have to build a new card. All right, the main slate here. So at a high level, 7 games, just scrolling to see there should not be any weather issues for these. Kind of a front-loaded slate compared to last Saturday, where we had the 1-7-20 game and then everything was 8 o'clock or later. Tonight, a lot of the West Coast games are afternoon games. So after 7 o'clock, we really have the Cincinnati Reds at Colorado. That's an 8:10 Eastern start. And then you've got the Dodgers with a 10:10 start hosting the Tigers. So not a lot of late action tonight, which is kind of sad because no NBA either. Whatever will we do? I will probably be in bed early, but we shall see. All right, the batters of Birdland going against Nathan Eovaldi. You have Spencer, potentially one of the worst pitchers in the league, Watkins going for the Orioles. That's enough discussion about Watkins, but how do you feel about Eovaldi, and how do you feel about the Boston Bats?
Yeah, I like Eovaldi quite a bit here. I mean, he's a very solid pitcher facing Baltimore, a team that everyone likes to pick on, and rightfully so. Their offense is nothing to be too concerned about. And Eovaldi's got some good stuff. I mean, he doesn't walk any guys. He's got a really nice K rate, close to 26%, 3.4 xFIP, doesn't allow much hard contact. We know he's got a heater on him. I don't think there's really anything bad to say about Eovaldi. There's a ton of bad things to say about Spencer Watkins. So I love the Boston Bats, and I love the Boston pitcher today.
If you were breaking down the Boston Bats and assuming Franchy Cordero is in the lineup at 2,000 on DraftKings, he is definitely a pinch hit risk, but would you go there if you assume he gets 2.5 at bats? We'll set the over under at 2.5 at bats. Do you feel that curbs the upside, or are you hoping he runs into one in one of his 2 shots against Watkins?
Yeah, I think if you're going like a Garrett Cole and Clayton Kershaw on this, like getting to a Franchy Cordero at a completely free price point of $2,000, I think might be the best way to go. If I'm playing Eovaldi, I'm not sure I have to get to Franchy just because I'll have some extra salary to work with. But if you are going double-studded pitcher today, I don't think that's a bad idea. And I realize the pinch hit risk is always kind of sucks whenever they get pinch hit because then your upside's completely gone. But if I can get a couple at bats, maybe 3 versus Spencer Watkins, I think it's worth it.
The odds of getting 3 at bats versus Spencer Watkins, well, Cordero better be batting right around 6th for that to happen. If he's any lower in the lineup, odds are he might get 2. The 3's off the table at that point. Yep. And then the question for him, would you go with him, who definitely has better upside, if they were each to get the same number of at bats versus Jackie Bradley Jr., who is unlikely to be pinch hit for, but mediocre with, is substandard 5 at bats better or worse than really good 2 at bats?
I'm going to take probably the really good 2 at bats. I just think there's more home run upside, and that's what I want.
Yeah, and those are decision points. Now, if it wasn't Watkins on the mound, probably be a different answer for this one. Right. But that's just one of the things you want to start to think about for baseball. Very event-based sport. Yes, we are capping our upside, but man, once you've got that home run in the books, you're sitting pretty. You're like, okay, great. Anything else is gravy. And if they don't get it, hey, no big worries. But it's all a mental thing. Because if you had, Jackie Bradley Jr. go 0 for 4 and then luck into a late inning home run, you'd be celebrating and high-fiving and thinking how awesome it was. But those would be the same number of fantasy points that Cordero would get if he got a home run in one of his first 2. So context is everything here, but you want to be a little bit daring sometimes in baseball, where it's completely predicated on failure. Everybody is, the famous, or the platitude is Mike Trout. Even Mike Trout can go 0 for 5. Or these days, even Shohei Ohtani can go 0 for 5. Next game. I don't know what to do with these pitchers. So we have a Bryce Elder at 7,500 on DraftKings. Again, we talk a lot of the DraftKings pricing because the two pitcher site, there's more decision points, etc. Here, FanDuel just basically play the best or the second best on the slate and just move on unless you're building 150 lineups. But we're looking for SP2s here. So Bryce Elder, intriguing, going against a Texas lineup that has retooled quite a bit from last year. They've turned over about half their lineup with Cole Calhoun, Semyon Seager, Mitch Garver, and Brad Miller, I think, was the other guy that I think he was in Philly last year, or he was a late addition to Texas last year. So it's not the same crappy lineup that they had, but their home park, unlikely that we see the roof open tonight, but is no longer the Texas hot weather bandbox. It's more of a pitching friendly location. Atlanta, solid, but semi-struggling, I guess. Dane Dunning is interesting. He has strikeouts. We know he's not going to go deep in the game, but if he can navigate the lineup 2 times and not get destroyed, he could come away with 4 to 6 strikeouts, which of course is the currency of the realm in daily fantasy sports. How is this duo lining up as SP2 candidates for you?
It's kind of a weird game for me. I personally like 3 to 4 pitchers on this slate. Like, these guys are fine. You can make a case for Elder. You can make a case for Dunning. I think Dunning at least has some strikeout upside, but like you said, he's never really going to go super deep into the game. Elder, so far, we're only talking about 14 inning sample size, but a 5.2 xFIP, 16% K rate, and a 16% walk rate. Not too encouraging versus a Texas team that we know has got some decent bats nowadays. Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, the other ones you mentioned. So for me, it's kind of a stay away game. The team totals for the offenses really aren't that great either. 4.2 for the Rangers and 4.3 for the Braves, at least on my side. So I just see a whole lot of kind of just mediocreness and in this game, which I don't really want to touch.
Okay. And that's, of course, absolutely fair. This looks like probably like around a 10%. I may get about 10% of stacks of these teams combined. The pitchers, probably around 10-15% of each of them in my lineups on DK, just because I've got to play 2 and you got to round these things out for this. So I see we're doing pretty well on time here, which reminds me, we probably have something else we should mention, like the best bets Discord. This is actually a lot of fun for states like Virginia. Well, we came online with sports wagering just over a year ago, or I guess a little more than that. It was right before the Super Bowl last year. It's a lot of fun. So we hear all this stuff, the odds and teasers and parlays and this, that, and the other in-game betting. But until you actually are putting your hard-earned money behind it, it's, oh, I understand this. Till you're clicking submit. And then you're going, did I do this right? Did I not do this right? So we have a lot of tools here at Awesemo to help you out with that. We have a fully dedicated betting Discord where Alex Baker, Ben Raza, and Steve DeColt's Buzzard provide their best picks of the day every day. You'll usually get from at least 2 of them combined around a half a dozen picks. Now, they're not going to put anything out there that they're not putting their hard money behind. For these special wagers, we do track the ROI of those to see how they're doing. They are positive. And if there's anything that needs updating, or they really like something changes, or something there's let's double down on this one, they will call out additions to it. So it's pretty fun doing all of this. So you can get the best bets package here by clicking the link below us here in the video. You can also get a free bet of the day by following Awesemo Best Bets on Twitter. So you'll want to turn on those notifications, because we're going to be posting one free premium bet on that every day. And you'll want those notifications on, because we're not going to let that thing sit out there all day. We're going to just hit you with that right before it goes to lock there. So it's a lot of fun there. And I'm enjoying the sports wagering. Plus, if you're at states where new sites are coming online, there are all sorts of bonuses, promo offers, etc. So enjoy and take advantage of those while you can. Do they have wagering in your state?
No, so they don't have it in Ohio. I moved to Florida. They don't have it there either. So I've just got bad luck.
But yeah, did you think about that? I mean, moving to Florida, the weather or sports wage weather. Yeah, I see where you're landing.
I can play PrizePicks. I can play DFS. It's fine.
Yeah. There we go. PrizePicks is the key. PrizePicks is the key. All righty, let's get back to our slate. We have a handful of games remaining here. Philadelphia and the Mets. We've got Taijuan Walker. He is coming back from shoulder bursitis He should be good. They said they think he's going to go somewhere between 75 and 80 or so pitches today. He has got a tough matchup going against the Phillies. On the other side, we have Kyle Gibson, who has seen somewhat of an increased strikeout rate. His pitch mix hasn't changed dramatically, but it is starting to change just a little bit. It's too hard to tell if this is just a sample size or something that Laffy and Adam have been wishing into existence for the last 4 seasons here for Gibson. But this is an interesting one. I would give a slight advantage to both pitchers in this one, but I'm not overly excited because these are much improved offenses. I mean, now that Philly can park either Rhys Hoskins or Bryce Harper at DH, keep those guys healthy. Their offense is that much stronger. And, the Mets of all team, there's still plenty of time left in the season for them to LOL Mets it up, but they're looking pretty solid right now. I'm leaning pitchers here, but are you seeing anything different?
Yeah, I would lean pitchers as well, but at the same time, these are 2 solid pitchers, but for DFS purposes, they're really not the best, and they're kind of overpriced in my opinion, especially Kyle Gibson. Like, Kyle Gibson's good, but for DFS, he's not amazing. 4x FIP pitcher, 21% K rate, doesn't give a lot of power. Like, he's fine at run prevention, but as far as just DFS upside goes, pull up his. So far this season, he started the year off hot. I mean, faced Oakland, 38 fantasy points, then 9, 8, 17, the strikeouts, 6, 3, 4, besides that 10K game. Versus Oakland to start the season, like in the matchup versus the Mets, it's not really a cakewalk these days. And the same can be said for Taijuan Walker versus the Phillies, who have plenty of upside. So while the implied team totals are low here, I could just kind of see an ugly game all around, similar to what I just talked about for the Rangers and Braves game, where the pitchers are fine, but they're not really taking down tournaments today with their strikeout upside.
And that's going to make it a little tenuous because these guys don't have the same discount that we did with the pitchers in the Atlanta and the Rangers game. And if they were coming in 1,500 less, all of a sudden we'd be talking about, hey, Gibson and Walker, I'd be willing to roll the dice on these guys because they're a little more talented than the duo in that other game. But now we've got the cost, plus we've got 2 phenomenal offensive situations coming up with the Dodgers, and then of course Coors Field. So now we're going to need some of this, some of our salary cap allocated towards those games. So maybe we don't get to be as luxurious with the mid-tier pitching as DraftKings is making it here for some decision points. Yahoo again, Yahoo we'll talk about at the end of this later, but FanDuel just always kind of take the best or second best pitcher and build from there. That's generally a tried and true strategy until you get to about lineup 20 or 25. But DraftKings got some decision points here for us. If you were pitching, who is your favorite hitter against each pitcher in this game? If you're trying to line up for a home run, I'm guessing probably Harper and Nimmo. Would you go lefty righty Nimmo, or would you try for the Pete Alonso righty righty?
For me, it's probably Nimmo. I just, the price point is really up there at $5,100 now. He used to be a lot cheaper than that. So you're paying a premium for him, but I get it. He's leading off for the Mets. They've been a good offense so far this year. Pete Alonso has better overall power. So if you are just straight up home run hunting, he might just be the better choice there. But as far as the Phillies go, I think Harper and Kyle Short would be the 2 I get to.
All right. Now the $1 million question, Garrett Cole without the sticky stuff, but now with a deadened ball, is this going to even things out just a little bit here? His nemesis was just suspended. That's always fun for that. But Cole has had some mixed results here, but he is coming off a 9 strikeout game. He shut out Cleveland, got the Guardians there for 6 2/3 innings. We're not seeing quite as many ground balls as we had hoped for here. He's getting a lot of fly balls, but it seems like the strikeouts are starting to tick up. And outside of a disastrous outing against Detroit, where he allowed 5 walks, he has just 3 walks in his other 3 starts. Is he compensating for lack of enhancers that used to be freely available? Do you think he's starting to normalize, figure it out? Because these guys are all world-class pitchers, right? None of them is going to be god-awful if they don't have the stuff. They just may not be throwing aspirins, as the kids like to say. I don't think the kids say that anymore. In the 50s, they would have said that. Not now.
Yeah, I realize Garrett Cole has had plenty of struggles without the sticky stuff, but he's also had plenty of good games with that as well. And he's coming off a hot game. Hopefully that carries some momentum. into this one, but I like Garrett Cole quite a bit. He's going to be my top pitcher on the slate. 3.2 implied team total against him. Not really scared of anybody in the Royals. I know Salvador Perez has plenty of power, but prefer him versus lefties anyway. Should be a lot of win equity here for Garrett Cole. I think the Yankee stack is going to look really good once again. And even dating back since last season, it's a bigger sample size, 200 innings, still at xFIP below 3, 33% carry, doesn't really walk too many guys. We'll give a little bit of pop here and there, but I mean, it's hard for me not to like Garrett Cole. I realize he's had a rocky start to start the season, but I'm really hoping last start does carry some momentum here versus KC.
Yeah, the KC offense just not particularly worrisome here. Carlos Santana, downside of his career, same thing with Salvador Perez. For perspective, yes, last year's Perez led the league in home runs and RBI. I think it was like 23 more home runs than he had hit at any other season in his career, and it was like 41 or 42 more RBIs than any other season in his career. That's what we call an outlier or a career year. Don't think that's coming back. He's still a great hitter, but that's about it for being scary. Adalberto Mondesi is on the disabled list. Poor guy's just become incredibly fragile lately, so he's out of the mix. So now we're looking at wind farm contenders like Hunter Dozier, Bobby Witt Jr. all of a sudden remembered he's a rookie and not performing like he was for the first few games of the season. So this isn't a particularly scary lineup. But $10,000 for Cole when we have these other offenses coming up here, it's a tough decision point. So, but one worth considering. On the other side, we do have the obligatory mention of Carlos Hernandez at 5,700 on DraftKings. However, this is a Yankee squad that just hit 4 home runs last night.
Yeah, and they got kind of off to a slow start with their bats this year, but they've been on fire lately. And I'm going to probably go right back to the well here. Anthony Rizzo, I believe he's leading the league in homers right now with 9. I believe he went deep last night. Aaron Judge seems to go deep every single night right now. It's hard for me to want to even think about rostering a pitcher versus the Yankees. So I'm going to be all about the offense here for the Yankees side.
All right. Well, lead us into that. It's an embarrassment of riches when healthy, and they have a lot of question marks when it comes to health with Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson, et cetera, which would be, rank your top 4, your core 4 in honor, since it is the Yankees. Who's the current core 4?
All right. So number 1 will be Aaron Judge. Number 2, Anthony Rizzo. Number 3, Stanton. Then number 1 would probably DJ LeMahieu for me. I just got to have Aaron Judge first because of the immense power upside. I prefer him versus lefties, but he can still match versus righties. All
right. No Joey Gallo, 3,300.
I'll let him whiff 4 times for somebody else.
that is very much in play. We'll go look and see if we have some Gallo strikeout props here on PrizePicks here when we wrap up our other games. So clearly Yankees always in play on offense. But we've got a couple others we'll be talking about here that do lean or that do project higher. But of course, that means you could get, even on a 7-game slate, a lower owned Yankees stacks, which is always exciting. So moving on to our next game, don't worry about the weather concerns. Of course, in Milwaukee, they do have a roof on the stadium, so that will mitigate any risk of postponement there. We've got a little bit of a dichotomy here with our 2 southpaws on the mound. You've got youngster Justin Steele coming in at 6,900. On the other side, you have Eric Lauer, who has seen his price goose all the way up to 9,600. Lauer actually has been the Alex Baker recommended bet. It was the free bet one day, and then it was a recommended bet another day for the over on strikeouts, and I believe it hit both times. That's not something you think about, strikeouts and Eric Lauer, but of course, when the line's at 3.5, 4, or 4.5, wherever it is for him on those games, it suddenly becomes actually quite interesting. Whereas on DFS, would be like, no, where's the strikeout upside? So again, there's lots of ways you can monetize different projections, strategies, etc. You just have to find the right landing spot. But that's what we can do with Odd Shopper, one of the Awesemo sister sites. We'll hit on those when we wrap up PrizePicks here at the end. What are you considering for this this pair of lefties here? Lauer, he's earned his price tag, but damn, I'm giving up a lot to go to him on a slate today with so many bats and a couple better arms.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I think the price tag is deserved to get a bump, but I don't think he should be more than Eovaldi, and I don't think he should only be a few hundred less than guys like Garrett Cole and Clayton Kershaw. So you're definitely paying a premium for Eric Lauer, and that's not something I ever really want to do. I wouldn't mind rostering him if he's at a discount, but at a premium, it's a little bit much for me. It's still a low implied team total for the Cubs here, though, sitting at 3.3. He should have decent win equity. I do think the Brewers stack does look pretty solid here versus Justin Steele. Lincoln Lauer's numbers since last year, 406 xFIP, 25% carry, which is actually a little bit higher than what I would think it would be if I wasn't looking at numbers. So he's solid. He doesn't really usually get blown up or anything. I think he can have a decent game versus the Cubs, but his normal ceiling is not going to be on par with guys in similar price points like Cole and like Kershaw.
So Eric Lauer, the Yahoo pitcher of the day, 37. That's a very favorable price point. By comparison, Kershaw 49, Cole 52, Eovaldi 42, Gibson 32. I would probably pair, depending on how things shake out, Lauer and probably Eovaldi at 42. And then if I had all the bats I wanted, I would consider downgrading one of those bats, and you could go from Eovaldi up to Kershaw for another $7. But those would kind of be the ones I'd look at. Cole, I'd still rather just land on Kershaw. We'll get to him shortly in our final game, but at 49 versus Cole at 52, I'd still rather land on Kershaw. I think he's in a better spot tonight. We're projecting him for 20% more fantasy points on Yahoo, and there are so many other ways we can differentiate our lineup. So it's not quite the popularity difference is still worth going to Kershaw at 50% compared to Cole at 20%, in my opinion, on that one, because there's plenty of ways to differentiate our lineups. If you're looking for the hitters here, Hunter Double Dong Renfroe got a home run last night off 2 different lefties. He gets a lefty tonight. What do you want to do with my favorite player of the league?
Oh, you got to like him here. Projected back cleanup, $3,700. We know he's got plenty of power versus lefties, and still will give him some pop versus right-handed bats. And this whole lineup looks pretty good. I mean, besides Christian Yelich and Colton Wong, it's going to be a very righty-heavy lineup. So I think the Brewers team total above 4.5 right now. It look pretty solid to me. McCutcheon's below 4K leading off. Willie Adames, we know he can hit lefties well. Hunter Renfroe, Hira, Tyrone Taylor. We're saying, like, I think you can get behind pretty much an entire Brewer stack here and feel pretty good about it, because outside of Adames, these guys are all pretty favorably priced.
All right, now we're on to the dessert portion of the show. We've got the Reds, we've got the Rockies, we've got the Dodgers here.
Yeah.
So the pitchers tonight in Coors Field, where game time temperatures will be 70 degrees, a light breeze going from first to third base in the 5 to 8 mile an hour range. You have Connor Overton making his season debut. He did pitch a little bit last year. He is going against Chad Kuhl. We have an 11 implied run total right now. Unless you're playing the 2-game late slate, which I will be, because then that slate is for sadists. Would you even consider either of these pitchers under any other circumstance?
No chance. I would not. I think there's enough value out there to not even have to think about going to this, at least, not even price range, but just this game as far as pitchers go. Like, give me the good pitchers on this slate, and I'll find enough to make the bats work. But I don't see any reason why you want to play Cooler Overton tonight.
All right, assuming these guys weren't in Coors Field, I would say Spencer Watkins is below these guys.
Right.
Probably Bryce Elder, maybe Justin Steele, definitely Bo Brisky, but yikes, we're looking at the dregs here. So focus on the hitters. Take us through the hometown heroes first. They put up 10 runs last night. You've got Connor Joe, Randall, who's now 5,600 on DK for reasons. You've got Grichuk, CJ Crone. We're running out of names. Obviously Charlie Blackmon getting older. No more Trevor Story. Obviously Nolan Arenado, a couple years removed from the squad. Dickerson, 4 years removed from the squad. They're in Coors. I don't recognize the names. I'm paying a lot, but it says they have the best implied run total of the night. Can you work some magic from the bullpen?
Yeah, they're north of 6 for their implied team total. Overton's not a pitcher where I'm concerned about righties or lefties. Really, I think we can use this by everybody, and we're going to see a lot of the bullpen anyway. So sign me up for all these guys. The problem is Connor Joe is nearly $6,000. So if you're playing cash games, as good of a spot as it is for a guy leading off for a team total of 6 in Coors Field, I just can't pay that kind of premium. I'd say probably my favorite bat here is CJ Crone. He's got plenty of power versus either lefties or righties. Prefer him versus lefties, but he's just been mashing the baseball. so far this season. He's also sub 5K. Ryan McMahon in the middle of the order, $4,300, plenty of pop versus righties, but you can like anybody here. If you're looking for just a cheap value play, we have Sam Hilliard in the outfield below 3K, just have some pop versus righties. I'm never really a big fan playing him, but if you can fit anybody on this entire roster for the Rockies, that look good tonight versus Cincinnati Reds.
All right. On the other side, the Reds do have Mike Moustakas back. He's probably worth 2,000 even. I can't remember if he was on COVID list or disabled list or what he has been, but I do know he's batting around $179 or so when I looked the other day. Not particularly great. You've got Colin Moran down there at the bottom. Tremendous power, not much else. A lot of strikeouts with him. He's 2,500. Again, we've got. So Terry and I were messaging each other in Slack, and he said, had you seen yesterday? He said, hey, had you seen the Cincinnati Reds pricing? The first one I looked at was DraftKings, and I was like, oh my God, did they forget they were in Coors Field? This is just horrible. And then I started looking at the other sides, and the FanDuel had them low, not egregiously low, but low. And then even Yahoo had them low. And I started looking, I'm like, the underlying metrics, are they really a deal going against Antonio Senzatella, who's going to get probably a 60% ground ball rate against these guys? That's really, are we getting a bargain? I'm not so sure. I think we are against Chad Kuhl. We've got one more day for anybody that played yesterday to acclimate to the differences in breaking balls, et cetera, at altitude. They should do a little bit better, but up and down this lineup, I mean, three regulars, or is it four, are no longer with Cincinnati this year? This is a watered down lineup compared to what we're used to. They even with the Great American Ballpark effect, they're still kind of a weaker lineup. Yes, Coors Field cures all ills, but are these guys really too cheap? I don't think they are.
I was saying the same thing yesterday. Like, yeah, they're cheap, but they're also really bad as well. So I think it's almost fairly priced. Because yesterday, if you stack the Reds, yeah, fantastic values for sure. But they had one run until like the ninth inning, and they got a little bit of a rally at the end. But man, you were not happy if you rostered the Reds. They look fantastic on paper. Like this is like just projection wise, this is 100% the best value on the slate. But it could easily go south because we're talking about a lineup outside of India, and I guess Pham a little bit, and Naquin versus righties. I mean, Joe Votto was great last year.
Pham, who was released and unsigned until almost the beginning of the season, by the way.
Right. And Joey Votto can't seem to really get too much going so far this year. In the bottom half of the order, just Farmer, Moustakas. It's pretty bad down low, but you're also facing a pretty bad pitcher in Chad Kuhl, who does allow around the 200 ISO. Two left-handed bats, so Tyler Naquin at 3K. He's got pop versus righties. Joey Votto's fairly, I don't know if I want to call him fairly priced because just how bad they've been so far this year, but $3,400 doesn't look too bad in Coors. Moustakas is free. And if you are rostering, if you're going double spend up with Garrett Cole and Clayton Kershaw, which is what I'm going to be doing in a lot of lineups, you're almost going to have to get to some Reds. And if you're going in cash games, everyone's going to have the same strategy of going Cole, Clayton Kershaw, and getting a bunch of Reds. So yeah, it's fun doing cash games, but in tournaments, you have to get a little bit different because that's what everyone's going to do.
Yeah, safety in numbers in the cash games, especially for baseball, because it's not that you're making mistakes. You get a lot of zeros or very low results in your lineups for cash games in baseball, which usually catches everybody off guard after the NBA, where things are very projectable. But which would you rather have? The risk of the MLB cash games, which I would, although I'm not playing them this year, versus the maybe a 3v3, most likely a 2v2 if you're lucky on most sites against somebody else in the cash games. It's like I'd like a little differentiation, right. Spices things up a little bit for that. But you just have to have that mindset to remember it's not if we load up on these Reds and we've got four of them, which probably is what you want to do in your cash game lineups, and they combine collectively and take part in scoring 3 runs. It's not the end of the world, even though it feels like it. It's really not for this one. All right, so let's talk about our top pitcher of the night. Likely going to be Clayton Kershaw. Sort of reinvented himself a little bit. Had a lot of injuries over the last few seasons. Finally healthy. Has the stamina. He's not Clayton effing Kershaw anymore, but he's still one of the top dozen pitchers in the league from start to start. How are you feeling about him with his wonderful matchup against the Motor City Kitties here?
Yeah, I know. I said I love
2.6 implied run total.
Yeah.
Second lowest I remember this year. Somebody had like a 2.5 earlier this week. I don't remember which team it was, but this is the second lowest I remember.
Yeah. I mean, I know I said I love Garrett Cole, which I do today, but Clayton Kershaw, I think, kind of in a tier of his own today. I mean, the team total is you'd almost think it's a mistake at 2.6. We don't usually see numbers that low. There is massive win equity for Clayton Kershaw. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get that 4-point bonus over on DK for the win at the end of the day. 2.72 xFIP since last year, 30% K rate, less than a 4% walk rate. Doesn't give him much power. Facing Detroit, which, yeah, they got a couple new bats this year, but it's Clayton Kershaw. He's pitching at home, probably going to get the win. I see no reason not to like Kershaw on this slate.
All right. And then on our other side here, we have, I'm assuming it's pronounced Brisky, Bo Brisky here. Let's see. In the minors, he did pitch AAA Toledo. This year, he got in 2 appearances. Last year, he mostly pitched at high A and double A. So he really has not seen big league hitters. Tough matchup for him going against the lineup that likely is going to have 3 former MVPs in it, along with 4 other players who have made all-star games. And then while they don't have awards to their name, Will Smith, pretty good for a catcher. Gavin Lux, he's going to see pitches. Come on, as the weakest member of this lineup, he's going to see some pitches to hit here. This late slate, can we just play Kershaw and take? I just want to take a 0 for my other pitching spot. I just don't want anybody that's going to go negative. There's a strategy. Perhaps I will pick a reliever that's pitched at least twice, maybe consecutive days, so I know he won't pitch today, and take that 0. Terry, we'll have to talk strategy after this show. This is I'm inventing this one on the fly for the late slate. But what are you thinking here with Brisky? I just don't see it.
I can't roster good pitchers usually versus the Dodgers, so I'm certainly not going to be looking at Brisky here. Like over a 5 implied team total, I just don't see a need to do it on this slate. Like I just give me the stud pitching. We know pitchers are a lot more projectable than bats, so I'll go with the safety net of the good pitchers on the slate, and I'd rather get different somewhere else. But I would much rather be on the Dodgers side here instead of the Tigers pitcher, which I think is not a hot take by any means, but it definitely makes sense to me.
But the hot take could be, how are you going to rank these Dodgers?
For me, Trey Turner is always my number one guy because he offers some pop, which hasn't really been there so far this year, but he does have power upside. He has contact. He has speed. Any single time he gets on base, he always got that 5-point bonus potential with the stolen base upside. I'd probably have to put Freddie Freeman number 2 with a righty on the mound, and Mookie Betts, then probably Max Muncy.
And what do those 4 players have in common? Hey, they don't share a birthday with me. They also didn't start out with the Dodgers. They all started out with other teams and were acquired by the Dodgers. Of course, Max Muncy essentially off the scrap heap after Oakland of all teams gave up on him. And then he made the All-Star game. Of course, they traded for Turner and got traded for Betts. And then Freeman was off-season acquisition there on the free agent market. But wow, that's a tough lineup because you've got the Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Those are the 3 MVPs. Trey Turner, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be in the mix for one in the next couple of years, don't you think? Or he should be in that top 3 as he reaches his prime. He will need to put it all together one year, but he's got the speed and enough pop combination that, a 25-25 season is not out of the question while he's vying for a batting title, right?
Oh, yeah, he's not a one-trick pony. He can do anything. I mean, power, contact, speed, there's nothing really more you can ask for. And hitting in the meat of the order for the best offense in baseball. I mean, Trey Turner's going to be excellent.
All right. T. McBee says everyone in the Dodgers lineup has over a 10 in his home run model. Usually for him, that's the break point of where you really start looking at it. For comparison's sake, who is it? Who is the crappy outfield? Pavin for Arizona, right? Yeah. Isn't it Pavin? He led his team the other day in Terry's article with the 5.6. So again, circling a callback, take pictures against the Diamondbacks this year. But wow, that's a pretty good number there. Oh, okay. So Terry says Trey Wentz 28-32 last year with the 328. He is in the conversation. Look, I'm a Nats fan. Might be able to tell by the hats behind me. I'm sad that he's no longer with the team. This kind of leaves a mark here. Scherzer sort of left a mark there. Who Rendon kind of got me right there. This is you root for these guys as they come up, and then they're dispersed. At least we have that 2019 World Series to show.
There you go.
But in any event there. So we're going to hit on, let's do a different angle. So we had the bomb detector. You gave us some strikeouts from the bullpen. What do you like for some home runs on this main slate here? I'll see if anybody is on PrizePicks for us, but give us your top 3 home run calls.
Okay. Pull it up here. Okay.
So interesting enough. So PrizePicks does not actually have home runs, but the translation for home runs would be looking at hitter fantasy score or total bases would be the two that essentially equate to home runs for that one. But who are your home run calls?
I love Rafael Devers for Boston today. Just picking on Spencer Watkins, lefty on righty spot. I think he's in a great spot for a homer. Obviously cheap for DFS purposes, but if he can go deep, it's going to be fine. I also really like Freddie Freeman going up against Brisky, the nice lefty on righty matchup. And then if you want to go to the Yankee side, Aaron Judge is always going to pop for me.
All right. So the comparison on that would be you get 10 fantasy points for a home run. So Devers is at 7.5. Who did you say? Judge is at 8.5. Who was your one in the middle there?
Freeman.
And Freeman is at 7.5. So if we look at the rest of their scoring, so that's, you get it if they get a home run, you're going to win that one. A double is worth 5. A single is worth 3. So any of those guys, essentially, if any of them gets 2 hits and an RBI, they're going to clear that number. So I think that is definitely worthwhile looking at that. Again, they could also go 0 for 5, 2 hits. You're asking a lot. That's going 400 for a game, but those seem like attainable numbers there at that point for those prime players. Now, the interesting thing on PrizePicks is these numbers are all they're going to seem kind of low. Look at the scoring and try to understand how you're going to break it down or how they could get there, because you'll want to account for walks. You'll want to account for if there's multiple hits, maybe it's a single and 1 extra base hit. What did they get if they get an RBI? And that's how you kind of look at the props over there for player props, as opposed to picking, the over under 0.5 home runs that you get on a sports wagering site. You don't, if your guy gets walked 4 times and 2 of them were intentional, you're like, where was my chance for a home run? Hey, you're going to get some points over there on PrizePicks to get there. Any final thoughts on today's slate?
No, I like both quite a bit. The main slate's really fun. You get Coors Field, you have excellent pitching options and a lot of fun places to hit. So I think it's going to be a fun one today. Lots of places to kind of get different and load up, but definitely looking forward to it.
All right. I see the Beat Boss says, don't cry. Don't cry, EMAC. Don't cry. It's tough. The Mariners haven't made the playoffs since I was born, right? It's been forever. Technically, that's not true, but it's been like 17 years, almost since you were born. Oh, let's not go there. But with that, we are going to get on out of here. You guys can find Chris on Twitter. Is it at Chris Pennell 17?
16. So close.
16. All right. Well, have you met any of the other 15?
I have not yet. I'm planning on it though.
What is the 16 for? Now I'm going to have 17 in my mind forever. So
just when I was in high school, as my football numbers, I've always kept it.
Okay. Quarterback?
Yeah.
Lefty or righty?
Righty.
Okay. Option or pro set?
Just kind of drop back.
Homecoming queen or play the field?
I believe I was homecoming. I was on the court for something. It was homecoming.
No, but did you date the homecoming queen or did you date all of them?
Oh, no. She's with me in the other room right now.
Oh, there we go. High school sweethearts.
Yep.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. Well, you can find me at EMAC DFS. And of course, it is Awesemo_COM. Stay tuned because at 3:00 we have MMA Live Before Lock. And then at 6:00 we have MLB Live Before Lock with T. McBee fresh off his $30,000 win and the one and only Gundacker. With that, gamers, shout out to Tyler, the producer, and good luck.